Tonight, on A Week in League, we'll be talking about the new champion ASUs, the new 2v2v2 game mode, LEC playoffs, and so much more right after the intro. Welcome to A Week in League, where we cover League of Legends esports all around the globe from all 4 major regions. I'm your host Slomar, and let's just get right into the news. As usual, timestamps and links will be in the description, and while you're down there, don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button. Thanks. Week 5 of the LPL was full of bangers. TES, LNG, and BLG go 2-0 this week. And aside from JDG going 1-1 this week, the only other surprising thing is IG going 0-2. I've said this in the past, but I'm really hyped for IG this year. It kinda sucks that they went 0-2 this week, but the strength of schedule was nowhere on their side. They went up against TES and JDG, arguably 2 of the top dogs in the LPL right now. Could this mean that IG is not a top team? I don't know, but while we're on the topic of IG, time for Game of the Week. And this week, it's IG versus JDG. Yes, I know, I keep picking IG games, but it's not my fault, they're all bangers, man. The series only goes to 2 games, but in Game 2, IG pulls off a lane swap in 2023. If you're new to League, you probably don't know much about lane swaps, so let me give you a quick rundown.
Silence! My name is Professor Slomar, and I'm here to teach you about lane swaps. Lane swap is an old strategy that can be traced back to early Season 2. The concept back then was very simple. You sent your bot lane duo top and your top lane laner bot, usually to avoid a bad matchup for either lane or sometimes both. The team initiating the swap will often have a top laner that can farm from a distance or have other tools that can assist them in a 2v1. This also usually meant that AD carries were safe to scale up and that top laners ended up falling behind. Since the inception of the 2v1 lane swap, there have been many iterations of this strategy. For a while there, the top laners would go around with the junglers for the first few minutes of the game. Sometimes they would get level 2, but it was at least until the wave crash. This would effectively leave the 2 lanes running as 2v0 lanes. Now that's a little cool. Some other times, it was all about diving the top laner in the 2v1 lane. This often meant a dive would be executed around the 3 to 4 minute mark. Sometimes, even the top laner for the team initiating the dive would teleport to a minion to tank the tower aggro. This was definitely before all the TP changes. Some other variations had Sion starting on a buff or a jungle camp, getting him level 2 before the wave crash. The lane swap meta kept evolving with many iterations and forms. Sometimes, teams would even double lane swapping, resulting in a 2v2 top side and a 1v1 bot side. Okay, I'm sure there are probably other variations that I'm forgetting about here, but these were the most popular ones. Anyways, Riot really didn't like this lane swap meta, so that's why the top towers are a lot tankier than the bot towers early on in the game. Other changes to bigger systems like the jungle and the TP have also indirectly/directly affected the lane swap meta. Lane swaps reached their peak popularity around 2015-ish. However, if I recall correctly, it was later 2015 or early 2016 when the lane swap meta was finally killed. Personally, I get it, lane swaps are not so good for the viewer experience, but perhaps in a world where it's a weaker but still viable strategy that would pop up every now and then, I would like to see it make a comeback. I don't really want a world where every single game is a lane swap, but every now and then is cool. And that's all for Professor Slomar's Ancient League History lesson.
Get a load of this guy, am I right? Even though lane swaps are not really in the meta, it was very fun to watch this game, so go check it out. Let's take a quick look at the LPL standings. The biggest change here is IG dropping all the way to 7th place. The top 7 slots in the LPL are very tight, and it seems like a very close race for playoffs this split. Make sure you tune in next week for more of our LPL coverage. Week 5 of the LCK wrapped up, and so did the first round robin. KT, HLE, and T1 all go 2-0 this last week. KT specifically putting on some impressive performances this last week. Could KT be a top team now? KT's 2-0 week got them tied up for second place in the standings, while T1 is still on top, losing only one series this year. Time for Game of the Week! And this week, it's T1 versus Gen G. This match has been hyped up for quite a while, and oh boy did it deliver. The series went all the way to 3 games, and it's definitely worth a watch. I won't spoil much on here, but it was a nail-biter all around. Go watch it. The next few LCK weeks will feature some crazy matchups, so make sure you stick around for that. The LEC Winter Groups just wrapped up, and what a surprise that was. SK won versus Vitality, and Mad Lions won versus Astralis. So while this means that SK and Mad Lions secure a spot in playoffs, that also means that Astralis and Vitality's splits are over. This is a little crazy since everyone was expecting Vitality to go far and perhaps even win the split. I wonder, with Vitality not making playoffs 2 splits in a row now, what's gonna happen next? The first round of playoff matches also happened on Monday this last week, with G2 versus Koi kicking it off. The winner of that series gets to advance to the finals. Let's take a look at the current LEC playoff bracket. G2 is already advanced to the finals, and SK goes up against Mad Lions for a spot in the semifinals against Koi. With Vitality not making it to playoffs, it's really hard to predict what's gonna happen during playoffs. But if I had to pick a winner, I would say we get a rematch of G2 versus Koi in the finals, with G2 claiming yet another title. Koi is looking real good lately, and G2 is looking like a strong favorites, especially after Vitality is gone. Time for Game of the Week! And this week, it's gonna be what I'm hoping is a preview for finals, and that's G2 versus Koi. The series was really close, but G2 ultimately came on top. The LEC format continues to be a real treat. Make sure you tune in next week for our playoffs coverage. The Super Week in the LCS was amazing. Cutie Cinderella was back, Fudge had a snake bite, Courage from 100 Thieves was on broadcast, and tons of other cool segments that I can't cover all on here. Aside from the analyst couch not having a dedicated host, I'm really digging the LCS broadcast this split. We're gonna ignore the Dash made me thing as well, right? The games, on the other hand, during Super Week were also pretty good. E.g., Golden Guardians and Cloud9 go 3-0 in the Super Week, and FlyQuest loses their first game to TSM. And while we're talking about this game, time for Game of the Week! And this week, it's gonna be none other than the FlyQuest versus TSM upset. What a banger from the TSM team. I mean, to be fair, FlyQuest did throw a little bit, but TSM did close off the game. Earlier this split, I talked about how excited I was to see Solo on the roster from the beginning of the split, and honestly, he's been looking alright. He even got the Cho'Gath counter pick top lane in this game. Stixxay gets Player of the Week during the LCS Super Week, and I just want to say, it's been a while. When was the last time Stixxay was putting up a good performance? What's even more difficult to believe is Stixxay is putting on this performance in a very AD carry dominated LCS split. Anyways, let's take a look at the LCS standings. FlyQuest is still in first place, even though they lost their first game this last week. No more undefeated memes though. EG and C9 are tied in second place, with TSM and Golden Guardians tied for fourth. I'm telling you, nobody would have predicted these standings. Nobody. With the first round robin concluding in the LCS, make sure you stick around in the coming weeks for our continued coverage. Welcome to In Other News, where we discuss news that may or may not be related to LOL Esports. This week's headline is, the League of Legends official YouTube channel put out a new dev diary, and they had a lot to say. First of all, this new style of dev diary is much lower budget. However, this should now help with the frequency, and we should be getting these updates more often. Personally, I've been very excited about the Dev and Balance team being very community facing in the last couple of years. Anyways, in this dev diary, they talked about new champion ASUs that are coming out. If you don't know what an ASU is, Think of it this way, it's just a modernization of an old League champion. Very similar to what happened to Ahri earlier this year. The Riot developers announced 2 new champion ASUs for Teemo and Lee Sin. If you've ever looked at Lee Sin's animations, then you know he needs an ASU for sure. They also talked about a big champion pricing update, a new 2v2v2v2 game mode, new skins ported from Wild Rift, and so much more. I highly recommend you watch this video as they go into so much more detail that we can't obviously cover it all on here. They've even put out a more detailed blog post that is just dedicated to the new 2v2v2v2 game mode. I don't know about you, but this new game mode is looking very hype. I can't wait for it to come out. In other news, last week we talked about the Silas Riot Forge game, the Mageseeker. And this week, we already have a teaser. The game looks really cool so far from the teaser, and it looks like it might be leaning heavy into the pixel art aesthetic thing. The game is coming out soon and will be available on all consoles and PC, which is neat. In other news, Limit to replace Targamas after XL's last place LEC finish. There's not too much to add here. Honestly, XL had an abysmal split, and they're just looking to make some changes. And speaking of changes, Cloud9 will be swapping out their starting mid laner Diplex for Emenes. Emenes has been known for being a toxic player in the past, however, he's performing really well in Academy right now. We'll have to see if the C9 main team can deal with the toxicity though. In other Cloud9 news, after the C9 vs TL game during the Super Week, this happened. Roll the clip.
That is some spicy trash talk to end the game. Holy.
Oh my goodness.
Let's just say Zven takes no prisoners.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, man.
The cold handshake.
Oh, what the heck is actually going on?
Okay, an interview actually.
Something actually must have happened. Holy moly.
I gotta interview him on stage for that one.
Yeah. Get in there, Revenge, investigate. There is some drama, baby.
Both players later came out and said it was all good, and it just made for a more exciting match. Honestly, I hope we get more snippets like this since it makes for a much more engaging and exciting viewer experience. Like when I saw that clip, I was like, oh! Maybe next time they face off, they can lean into this meme, maybe show off some like Academy stats against LCS stats or something. That would be cool. In other news, Vitality acquires all-female League of Legends roster, French Bees. The Academy team will be integrated in Vitality's original infrastructure. Personally, I don't really know how I feel about esports not being co-ed and these female teams and leagues, but don't cancel me. I'm cool with it and all, but I don't know. In other news, the TSM LCS team car was broken into. This was announced on Twitter by the official TSM Twitter account. Some players from the team were quite upset after losing valuable items that were stolen from the car. An LCS fan named Mustafa, shouts out to you Mustafa, found the team's backpacks nearby to the LCS studio and helped them recover some of their belongings. That's a small win, right? Maybe next time, bring your stuff inside? Does the LCS not have a room or a locker or something? I don't get it. Can we get the Players Association to get everyone to pitch in like $50 and then we can get like a nice little locker for all the players? It'll be like high school all over again, except there are no cool kids, it's all nerds. In other news, the North American League Champions Queue announces new prizes, and they include a custom wearable helmet. Okay, the helmet's only for the first place, but I bet you got confused for a little second there. The helmet is a custom decorative helmet inspired by the Nexus. And personally, I think it looks really cool, especially in this purple. Maybe these rewards will finally entice the pro players to play some Champions Queue. In other news, legendary player Showmaker admits in an interview that he's fallen out of love with League of Legends. There's not much else for us to add on here, but you hate to see when such a long-standing League of Legends player is nearing the end of their career. In other news, after passing the halfway mark of the split, the LEC is averaging more than double the viewership of the LCS. I think this is very sad and slightly alarming news. But I think some of this could still be attributed to the time changes and the slots, the Super Week not being announced that they're starting on Wednesday. Like, I didn't even know, and I watch the LCS every week. Hopefully the LCS can recover in some way. I don't know, it also doesn't help that the LEC has had one of the best formats out of all the 4 major regions this year. Maybe this is a sign we need a better format in the LCS too. In other LCS news, Ovilee May will be on the LCS broadcast this week. I like Ovilee's content, and I hope that this is an indication that we're gonna get some banger content next week. And that's the end of our show for this week. Thank you so much for all the continued support. If you're enjoying the show, please consider subscribing. Have a good night, and good luck in solo queue.